Milton Ali.
Hampton Scurlock.
You don't really have what it takes to be a real estate investor. This is the Investor Tribe.
It's the vibe, y'all. Investor Tribe, y'all. Investor Tribe, y'all. Investor Tribe, y'all. Let's go.
I work with people all the time. You know this, I know this. We even have these conversations back and forth about who we work with, how we help them go from zero to hero in this real estate space. And what I find is that there are several things that we often find that is highly frustrating all the time.
Very frustrating. A lot of people just don't have what it takes. Or they're not willing to put in the time. They're not willing to put in the effort. And there's so much that can go into being a real estate investor. I can look at about anybody out there and say, you don't have what it takes. Nobody can do everything perfectly and all the aspects of real estate. Now, you may master a few things, but nobody can do everything.
Let me take that a step further. Most people do not expect to become a real estate investor if you do not have any money, time, expertise, focus, accountability, grit, relationships.
Yep.
And I can go on and on and on about what you are in need of in order to be an excellent real estate investor. Like, I've been in this game for a while and I still make mistakes. And there are things that we still come across that I have yet to see before. And so if I'm making less mistakes but still making mistakes, don't expect to come in here and think that this is going to save you. And I really think in our conversation, that's why we're going to have that chat. You don't have what it takes. Bottom line.
And a lot of people don't. And there's so much that goes into it. And for all the new investors out there, it takes a lot to gain the experience, gain the skill, get the network, get the funding, find the deals, become a landlord, manage the flips, and then you may get into development properties, you may get into loaning money. There's so many ways to make money in real estate. Nobody can do it all. Nobody does it all well.
Wait a minute, Hampton. There's so many ways to lose money in real estate.
There can be that also. Yes.
Yeah, there are so many ways to lose money. And when you think about, nothing ticks you off more than losing money.
Right. Or talking with someone that doesn't know what they're talking about, or waste my time or other people's time. And sometimes you have to take it with a grain of salt, because not everybody's going to be on the up and up. Not everybody's going to know what they're talking about in real estate, especially if they're newer to the world. But recently dealt with an wholesaler investor that called, was telling me about this great deal on a property. It's worth $280,000. He's got it for $140.
Right.
And I started asking a few questions because he told me where it was. I said, well, how much land does it have? Oh, about an acre. I asked him, is it in a floodplain? I don't think so. Do you know what it's zoned? I don't know. I asked him several questions. No idea about any of this stuff. The house, if you haven't seen it, and what turned out, it wasn't a floodplain. It was under 0.6 acres. So it was over half acre, but it was well under an acre. So he's overpaying for something and getting less land than he thought. Something that's in a floodplain. He wasn't sure if it was septic or sewer. So he didn't know where to start. He didn't have the answers. And I told him, you better know this stuff if you're talking to other investors and trying to sell this deal, because it may not be a deal and people aren't going to want to, not everybody's going to want to hold your hand and help you out, or you need to be able to evaluate these things before you put something under contract.
If it wasn't, it's almost like you got to laugh to keep from crying sometimes, right? People lose money in real estate. This isn't just to how people lose money, but we're going to talk about how people lose money just in a couple of ways here. The first way people lose money is by a lack of education about what's going on in the property itself. Similar to, let's just go with your example right off the top. If you don't know what you're getting yourself into, it's going to be hard for you to know how to make money. And you have to have a plan, a strategy going into the deal.
And probably a backup plan as well. If the
and a backup
plan A
plan.
doesn't work
like,
out,
what is
plan
your
B.
exit? What is an exit strategy before you even purchase? If you didn't have that figured out or that in mind, then you are in bad shape in the beginning, right? If you lack, and let's just stay on education. If you don't know how to interview your vendors, if you don't know what makes a good plumber from a not so good plumber, does your favorite plumber handle both the water and gas side of the equation? Do they handle what are they good at? What are they not good at? Right? Do you have and even the fact that you may even have some expertise in the fact that you even need a plumber. Just because you're kind of handy doesn't mean that you can do what a plumber does very, very well.
Or
let's just
legally,
go there.
yeah.
Or an electrician. Oh yeah, you can put together, you can screw in a light bulb. That's great. However, that electrician is going to be able to go behind a wall and really learn how to rewire some things. And you can hold them accountable as opposed to holding yourself accountable for some of the repairs that's done on a property. You cannot do everything yourself. That is just the truth. It is now an age where we cannot do 100% of everything all the time because we don't have all the time. And that's how people lose money. Because if it takes me, it'll take me and you, if we wanted to redo a floor in a house, it might take us about a week and a half.
Or we can pay somebody that's good at it.
Or we can pay somebody that's get it done in one afternoon. And
they got the tools. They have to rent a sander. You know, they can knock it out. They know how many coats. They know what direction. They know to work, you know, from the top down or from the outside in on certain things, and not to paint themselves in a corner. Not that we would do that or
yeah, I would.
You would. Okay, I haven't done that yet.
Yes.
But fortunately, I could jump really far, and then I could, you know, I was flexible and limber. I got it done. I didn't paint myself in the corner, but you know, I came close one time. But you know, not having the experience, not having the time, you know, you can study, you can learn these things, you can take classes. Experience will help. Networking will help. You'll start picking up things almost through osmosis as you're just around it, and it soaks in as you're around other people that know more and have been around the game longer. But also, find a partner. You know, work with the contractor. Find a partner. You want to get into development. You found a good land deal, but you're a renovator, you know, or a landlord. You're not a developer. You're not a house builder. Go find a builder to work with. You know, learn, partner. You know, build your team. You talk about, you know, engaging the talent, you know, owning the results. But you know, kind of vet who you're working with, and you want to make sure you're getting good people, or they come, you know, referred. They've got a good reputation, or they've got you know, some people they've done deals with. They don't all work out wonderfully. So we've all heard stories or had stories of a contractor that started off great, and then fell off the wagon, or start having, you know, troubles with their significant other. And all of a sudden they're not showing up, or you know, they developed a drug habit, had a car problem, or just bad with money, and you know, they're not finishing up the work, they're not doing what they said, the quality isn't there, it falls off after time. So some of those good contractors can turn bad.
See, you have that experience of we all have the experience of the good people turn bad. I have the experiences of some of the investors I've spoken with over the years have purchased a property, began working on said property, only to find that there are foundation issues in the middle of the work, right? In the middle of the work, my conversation with them has been, what did the inspection turn up? And their question to me is, what inspection? We didn't get an inspection. And so that tells me more, or I didn't need an inspection because it needed everything. However, you didn't have another pair of eyes to look at the property. If you got an inspection and everyone paid attention to a very thorough inspection, that would probably save you more money and more time across the board. If you just get one inspection on the property, or maybe more than one inspection, depending on what you need to take a look at a lot more closely. And let's break it down. If you are in real estate and you do not have money, if you do not have time, if you do not have the expertise, if you do not have the focus to stay on task, the grit to overcome the challenges, and the ability to look in the mirror and hold yourself accountable, the question now goes back to the top of the show. Do you have what it takes? And I think me and you were just having this conversation and actually getting mad about it because we're just like, you know what? Maybe you don't have what it takes. Let's just go there. Let's just really break this down for everyone. What does that money equation look like? When you think of money, what does that look like as far as how do you prepare when it comes to the money part?
Different people can do it different ways. You know, we're not financial planners here. We're not accountants. We're not attorneys. We're not giving tax, legal, investment advice. Just basic.
We are not. That's
our disclaimer. Yeah. So
yeah.
Just some of the basics. Money can look and mean different things to different people. You know, some people just getting into real estate, they're paycheck to paycheck, or they're in the hole. They may have lost a job and they're looking for real estate to dig them out of a hole, and they don't have the funds to invest, so they're trying to wholesale. They're trying to build up some cash to maybe later invest.
Check your local laws to see if the legality of wholesaling where you live.
Yeah, and it's being cracked down and outlawed or putting regulations in place in different states. So again, do your research on that. Some people were bird dogging, or they're joint venturing and trying to find deals for investors to buy. And then you have other people that sitting, maybe they're retired, or they're looking for a second career, or they've stockpiled some money and they don't know much about investing, so they're looking for passive income or mailbox money. So
do you think if you don't have enough money to get started, should you get started?
Yes.
Okay.
Explain. You can start different ways. Even that gentleman I told you that he hadn't done a deal yet. He's out there trying to find deals, but he didn't know working with other investors before he put properties under contracts. He's out there trying to hustle them and find deals and talk to motivated sellers. And he's, maybe spinning his wheels a little bit, but he talked to 2 sellers and thought he may have 2 deals. One of them was a deal, and I asked him, is it in the downtown area? And he told me the street. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's downtown. He goes, no. And it was a 402, 11 property. And
okay,
so
yeah, got you.
And I 409, and he did. And he's like, oh, is that considered downtown? I go, yeah, that's right downtown. And I said, I just gotta pass because I bought one around the street that was already rented, good shape, off the MLS for half the price of what he was trying to sell a gutted, falling down property for. And I said, you're not going to have any luck moving that. He said, well, it's, so some unnamed website that begins with a Z says it's worth 3 times more, but
X amount.
yes,
right.
and it was
Right.
he wasn't going to get there. So I kind of walked him through it, and he sees so he kind of thought he had a deal there, and then the other one was in a floodplain, and he was off on the size of it and the value and the size of the acreage, and didn't know the zoning, if it was on septic or so. He didn't know any of this stuff. But I admire him because even though I hate to say he's clueless, as we say in the South, bless his heart, he's trying. He's got the attitude. He's out there. He's got the work ethic. So he doesn't have everything it takes to succeed now, but he's got the work ethic. He's got the perseverance. He's getting the door shut in his face, and he's knocking on the window. Hey, but I was trying to teach him. Here's these websites. Here's how you find this information. Here's how you find the zoning, the floodplain info, and you need to know all this stuff before you go talk to other investors, because a lot of them won't be as nice to you, or they'll just hang up. Or if you don't know these answers, they're not going to take you serious.
Right. And let's talk about the next one. So there's money, right, which we can have a whole show about. Then there's time. How have you spent your time to become a better investor? And I really want to break this down. There's a couple of ways that you can spend your time. You can spend your time looking for a deal. You can spend your time in analysis of said deal before you call anyone else. Let me learn as much as I can about what's going on with this deal. I'll talk to a local real estate professional to get an analysis of what's going on in the area. How are things selling? How do you spend your time? Do you spend your time educating yourself? Do you spend your time learning about the business? Do you spend your time even shadowing someone? Do you spend your time on how to have conversations with people that are distressed sellers. And when you think about people that don't spend the time to do that, they often show themselves out.
They do. They don't do any deals, or they're not making any money, and they move on thinking real estate is just, it isn't for them, or it's not all that's cracked up to be, because they didn't put in the claim, there's no deals out there. And then after 1, 2, 3 years of trying real estate or dabbling, they move on to something else, because they didn't put in the time. They didn't put forth the effort. They just thought, oh, I'm going to try to be a real estate investor, and they'll maybe look at deals and analyze some stuff online, but they're not going to see properties. They're not shadowing people. They're not going to meetups. They're not knocking on doors, sending out postcards, using SEO to try to find motivated sellers. They're not letting everybody know and shouting from the rooftops, hey, I buy ugly houses. Do you know anybody that needs to sell? And if
or even spending the time behind a sign. We were doing this. We had a conversation about, hey, I buy houses, but then again, what's behind that sign? What's behind that sign? What's behind that sign is the empathy, the understanding, and a path forward to help someone and to help purchase a property. If you are an investor and you're looking to purchase a home and you're looking to navigate this field, then spend some time, get educated. You can go to YouTube University and you literally can learn a lot of things for very low cost, mostly free, if you're willing to spend the time. Because here's the thing, when you skip out on education, I can tell you that there is so I have people that are somewhat the brains of the operation. And I'm just going to break it down. This may offend a lot of people. Here's the thing. You can even have money. You can have money. If you don't want to learn and become better, this isn't for you. This game isn't for you. This business isn't for you. If you have money and wish not to learn and don't have but often appears. So when you think about you have a desire to learn more. Now, does it mean we need to get a master's degree in every aspect of real estate? Maybe, right? Maybe.
It'll take a while.
Yeah, it'll take a while, but to at least have some mastery of maybe a couple of items that are in real estate, and maybe one, right? It might be this is your field. I'm a real estate agent. I go to training. I'm constantly learning more about how I can super serve, how I can super serve the clients that are in my care, and how I have to become a better person because my business grows to the extent that I do. Let's go back. You can have the money. You don't spend your time correctly, you're in bad shape. You don't spend your time adequately. When we talk about learning, when we talk about investing in yourself for education, you can get education for free, but it often means that you have to pay money. Why are you paying money? Because the only time you really are learning is sometimes when you pay attention. Because what you don't want is your tuition to come from your mistakes.
The school of hard knocks can be very expensive.
Very, more expensive than the education.
Many times it is. And learning from someone else's mistakes and learning from an educator that's been there and done that is so much less stressful. And it's easier on the pocketbook than you going out and making those mistakes or wasting that time. Because then you got to deal with holding costs and you have stress and you got to redo some things that were maybe messed up by a contractor, or you got to unwind a deal to go back and redo something differently. And you learn, you're constantly learning in this game of real estate. Somebody threw a term at me the other day, and I was like, I don't know what in the heck that is. Is that a name of a title company? And it wasn't. It was some old English type of titling of a property where it cannot be taxed and cannot be confiscated by the government, but it's invalid in the United States. But it was a term, I've heard of that, but I don't know what it means. And so I learned something new the other day because somebody else was clueless about what it was. Now it's a term I'm probably never ever going to have to use, and it's illegal, and we can't hold title like that in our country. But you're constantly learning in this field. And if you're newer, go hang out with somebody that knows more than you. Go play Monopoly, play the cash flow game, get online, join discussion groups, go to classes, read, get on YouTube University and start learning all this stuff up.
And let's take it a step further. So let's say this is your first time ever watching us and you're not a real estate investor yet and you're thinking about it. Because 75% of the people that are watching us are not subscribed. So make that a change in your activities, right? But back to the real point here is that when you really think about that time and that education, right now there is a gap. A lot of people want to have experiences over saving up for real estate. And there's a gap. Excuse me, guys. Oh,
Bless you.
man.
Cleveland out 6.
Work that out. Oh man, I was trying to hold it in, but I cannot.
It's all this varnish.
I know. The varnish, the dust. Excuse me, guys. Let me.
That cologne Drew's wearing.
Oh mercy. Oh goodness gracious. This is just so much. And so, so here's the thing. When it comes to spending your time, one of the ways that you can close that gap of spending time is coming to our meetups.
Yes.
If you are in Louisville, Kentucky, that's if you're in Louisville, or if you're not, if you're we've had people from all over.
We have.
Yeah, from come out to our meetups.
Drive from all over. It's great food, great networking. Some of those deals are getting passed back and forth,
Yes.
and a lot of knowledge being shared.
Yes.
It's not all us providing all the knowledge. It's the
That's
other
true.
members.
That's true.
We
Yeah,
got
it
lenders,
really is.
appraisers, inspectors, other investors. Everybody. We're all stronger together. We're all learning from each other.
And I agree. And so our meetups are literally on the first Wednesday of every month, and the second Tuesday is our main happy hour meeting, and that is really from like 5:30 to about 8:30, where you can come in. If you can only stay for a couple hours, that's just what you can do. However, you can go to all right, so let's just give you the time and the places, right?
Yeah.
So if you are in Louisville, Kentucky, we meet on the first Wednesday of every month at Diorio's Pizza in Prospect on River Road. And our second Tuesday of every month is our main meeting, and that is on Roosters on Shelbyville Road in Middletown.
10430 Shelbyville Road.
Let's go. And so
Back
you
in
can
the
come
party
up-
room.
Yeah, back in the party room. And so those are our two main meetups, and there's more being added as time goes on. Yet you can spend your time learning from the tribe, right? Because it does take a tribe. And it's so important, right? So there's education that you can get, there's partnerships, there's mentorship that can be provided. There's so many ways.
There's money, there's lenders.
There's lenders there, there's money, there's expertise. There's one guy that just does drywall.
Yeah.
And that's all he does is drywall, right? And so we got to, invite him on and to talk about drywall, but that's all he does. And I love the fact that he's so precise and clear about what he does and what he doesn't do.
He says, I do drywall, and that's it. He says
That's it.
He does it well. He doesn't want to learn. So got to admire
And
that.
so, I admire that, right? Because clarity is power in this business, right? And so let's talk about the third thing that is very difficult, and that I'm not going to say it just grinds my gears, but it definitely gets me excited to talk about, and that is expertise. That's a vendor. That's somebody that's in your life that does something that has achieved mastery. In certain areas in my courses, we call it talent, right? We talk about expertise, the expertise of a plumber, the expertise of an electrician, the expertise of an inspector, the expertise of a roofer, the expertise of someone who actually installs cabinets really well, and someone who does flooring. And the fact of the matter is, the worst thing that a entrepreneur can say is, I'll just do it all by myself.
It'll take you forever if you're trying to do a whole house or do big projects by yourself. And yes, you may save a couple nickels here and there, but you may be costing yourself dimes in the time, the stress, the wear and tear on your body that is taken, and then the lost income that you could be getting in rent, or the sooner you could be getting the return from selling the property if you're flipping it.
I agree. I totally agree.
And hi, this is Drew. My sister and brother-in-law, they just flipped a house about a year ago. It's their first flip ever. They came in and they thought to themselves, you know what, I'll save money. I'll do it all by myself. And they had, they bought drywall 4 months as a flip, turned into a year and a half. And, ended up costing way more than they thought they were going to have. Ended up bringing out my my grandfather, who's been in contracting for several years in Arizona. Poor man, in his 70s, having to lift and haul in the winter, no less, moving things around, and he says that they had a good time, but I was there. It wasn't fantastic. But if they had just got some vendors, they would have saved more time and money, and they would have gotten a larger return than if they had done it all by themselves.
And I've got a similar story. We had another investor that shared something similar, that it took them closer to 2 years for their flip. They thought it was going to be 6 months tops, and then they started doing more and more of their work. And they said, oh, it was great when it was all the wife said, "Oh, we have to eat because we didn't have a kitchen for 4 weeks, and this and that, and the time the garage door wouldn't come down, and something froze to something." Like, they had a lot of memories, they had a lot of stories. Not all of them were good, but they were memorable, and that took 2 years of their lives, with sometimes not having showers, not having heat, deal with dust. And she did say something about she sat on something, he painted something, she didn't know it, and she had paint on her butt at work, and nobody told her. For the whole, it wasn't a handprint. It was just she brushed her butt up against the wall, and nobody told her. And so he ruined some of her clothes. She felt like she got made fun of at work, or didn't feel right. But they had a lot of stories, a lot of memories. But he said, in hindsight, I should have listened to my wife. I should have paid somebody. I should have paid the crew, or brought in experts to get this done quicker. Would have caused a whole lot less stress.
Yeah, and so our next topic is focus. And I remember as a kid, my mom saying, "Hey, focus, focus. I'm all over the place. Like, what's that? Like squirrel, when like a dog see a squirrel. Like, it's about focus, right? Being able to focus on either the task at hand. When you think about, you may not have the focus that it takes to be a real estate investor. It requires staying on task. It requires holding people to accountability. It requires you focusing. So, what is a good example of that? Bottom line, if I'm working on a house and I already have a scope of work done, and a scope of work is a plan. A scope of work is a plan. What am I going to do? I'm going to take this 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and with renovations, with I'm going to replace the roof, I'm going to have XYZ, such as when I am done, we're going to have a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom place, and that is in my scope of work. It is not focused for me to bring up to you, oh yeah, you know what, let's just do something different. Let's just add a new garage, or let's add something to it. Let's run up the budget, because I can't tell you how many times I've had cool ideas and they ran up the budget, and then I was not focused on the plan, and I thought, well, you know what, it's just a little bit of cool thing. You remember we bought a house together, and literally I had this in there, and you were like, dude, like, why are we getting, I said, hey man, it's a nice ceiling fan. And it was nice. It was a very, very nice ceiling fan. I've actually bought that again yes, I bought that ceiling fan again. However, what we did not realize was that we had other issues that we had to take care of.
Now, the wireless Bluetooth speaker with the
Yes.
color changing light was cool in the shower.
That was cool.
And the Wi-Fi or the touchless kitchen sink faucet was pretty neat too. So if you're washing pots, you can just touch it with your elbow.
Oh yeah,
Or
that
you-
is
you-
right.
you
We
pretty-
did get that.
Yeah, so we
did
this.
this. We did some pretty cool things that was in alignment for the price point that we were trying to sell it for.
Yep.
I think we wanted to do that. So I think that those things are important, and sometimes you have to, that's not to say that you shouldn't be adaptable. However, when we're talking about is the focus required, right? If you are learning about single family homes, now is not the time for you to think, well, you know what? I'm going to sell hotels now. Or I'm going to sell multifamily. I'm going to sell, an 8-plex. When you haven't figured out a single family home yet.
Sometimes focus is just saying no, putting your blinders on, and focusing on that one thing. So you're not getting that shiny object syndrome. Or you watched a YouTube video or somebody talked about, I made extra money with turning my farmland into a dog park. You need to focus on your properties you've got in the city and getting them rented and getting them going, rather than trying to buy land out in the country, get it zoned, and see how you're going to market for a dog park. A lot of people have too many projects going on. They just need to focus on one thing.
Let's go even a step further. Sometimes focus mean that you shouldn't even be in real estate right now. Maybe show up to work on time at your regular job. Maybe if you can't show up to work on time, then you sure as heck can't show up to a distressed seller's place on time in a way that's respectful. And sometimes you may lack the very skill, the very focus needed to actually stay the course. This one, that is a really big one. It's a really, really big one, is accountability.
Yep, which can be real tough because a lot of real estate investors are loners, or they've left a job, or they feel like they're out on their own, doing their thing, whatever it is, whatever they're focused on. So the accountability can come in several ways. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a family member. You may have an accountability partner. You may be part of a mentorship group, and just that accountability is important, so people aren't just flaking out, and they get some accountability. They're getting help on their journey towards real estate success or whatever success that they want to receive.
You know what? I've been learning lately that there's 3 kinds of people. There are
people that can count and people that can't.
That's not 3. The 3 different types of people that I'm reading about, learning about, is you have heroes, villains, and victims. Okay? And it all depends on the stories that they tell you as why something is not taking place. Okay? The first person that's a victim blames everyone else for why something doesn't go the way it's supposed to. Well, it was the house or the area of town that I bought, or it was the contractor, or it was this person or that person. It was this, and this is the reason why I lost money on the deal. This is the reason why. Okay. Then the villain, they're the type of individual that kind of looks at it and says, you know what? I have to impose my will. And I go ahead and I did this, and yeah, I did this, and it's my way or the highway. And again, it's everybody else that didn't follow my specific way that I wanted to do it. That's the reason why it didn't go that way. But what they didn't do is they didn't foster collaboration. So they were the aggressor. And they were just trying to tell everybody else what to do, and they were the only one with a good idea. That's a victim. The heroes, the villain, sorry about that. Yeah, the villains. And so the hero of the story are individuals that are able to take ownership and accountability for their actions. Okay, my house got broken into. I failed to secure the house. I didn't secure the house. I knew what area I was purchasing in, and I knew the dynamics. Or if I didn't know the dynamics, I sure learned the dynamics, and it was broken into once, but it wasn't broken into twice. Because
I slipped down your gun in a motion detector.
So now we're going to talk about, no snitching on the pod. And so basically, we're looking at how did you take accountability? Did you board up the property? did you go down there? And, you know, a lot of that is with ego. Because that can get in the way. Because if I have to take ownership, that just means I have to look in the mirror. If there's no other reason why you lost money on the deal other than a mistake that you made, and you have to look in the mirror to see how you lost money. And there is no other teacher that's better than losing money. That seems to be the best teacher, because if you take the right lessons, then you'll actually do a better job next time.
And you'll remember it.
And you'll definitely, nothing teaches you like losing money.
Or when you're writing checks, you learn what stuff costs. You know, people ask all the time, "How much is it?" I know it's this much per opening, or this, you know, this, because you're writing those checks, you're spending that money. You learn it pretty quick. So if you're into real estate, but if you don't want to learn what all that stuff costs by writing a check, you partner with somebody, or you shadow them around, or you walk through the property when they're done and say, "How much did this cost? How much did that cost?" And you learn.
Or go to a Home Depot, a Ace, a Lowe's, or learn whatever's in your area to learn about these things, to learn how much materials cost, right? So that when you have I have an investor client that literally was saying, "Hey, my contractor said we should do this, and this." I said, "Oh, okay, well, that's not a problem. Okay, so yeah, we took care of it, but it was outside of the scope, and we really wanted to do it. It was outside of scope." I said, "Well, what did the inspections there, right?" Because bottom line is, if you didn't get the inspection, that's your fault. That's your fault. Let's go to the very last thing that we want to talk about, and that is grit, determination. What's another word for that? Perseverance, right? So when you think about that grit that it takes, I think it's the overcoming. Like, we had that one house that we were working on. It took us almost 2 years to knock it out.
The big house. Custom.
It was a big house,
yeah,
custom.
Gosh,
yeah, we had to wait on a custom. We had to wait on so many different things. We went through so many contractors.
A roof that was underneath a deck on top of a bomb shelter garage. Remember the Trex? Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a lot of stuff going on in this house, right? So when you think about, like, the perseverance that it took, I mean, and that took a lot of what? Money, a lot of time, a lot of expertise, a lot of focus, accountability. Because when they finally did the inspection on the house, it revealed all kinds of things because we did not get an inspection on the house. So, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit. Like, hey, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about today are mistakes that we made in this business, right? We just couldn't name the podcast "How to Lose Another $80,000 in Real Estate" all over again, but we talked about fitness. We just talked about fitness. You may not be fit to do this. Right? And if you lose all your money, you may not be doing this again. So it's so important. It's so important to look at, like, do you really have what it takes? Do you have the grit? Do you have the determination to say, okay, you know what? Am I going to overcome? Am I going to still do what it takes to make this a career, or to do this project, or to wrap this up? You know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, real estate's not all roses and rainbows and unicorns. You know, there's sometimes you got to deal with tenants, toilets issues, lightning strikes. You know, contractor issues, going over budget. There's a lot of things you got to deal with, and not everybody's equipped to. Like I said, not everybody has what it takes, and that's fine. If you don't, and you decide real estate's not for you. Maybe you're not hands-on in real estate. Maybe you're just investing. You're putting money into a fund. You're being a financial partner. You're a lender, because you don't have the temperament to be a landlord and be firm but fair. Sometimes you're too nice. People take advantage. They take it as a sign of weakness, even though you're trying to help people and be a good person. You get walked all over.
And so what we want to do is just recap what we talked about today. You may not have what it takes if you don't have the money, right? If you don't have the time, which means education, what you do with your time, expertise, if you don't have the focus, if you don't have accountability, and that's either with a partner or with your own set up to come over. And you know what that all adds up to?
No, because I tried spelling something out.
No. I got it. What it adds up to, man, is the resources. At the end of the day, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, you have to come to account with how you manage the resources that God has blessed you with.
And not everybody has.
And not everybody has what it takes. Does that make sense?
It does. What if somebody doesn't have what it takes? What would your advice be?
So if you don't have what it takes, you can get what it takes. You can join the Investor Tribe. You can join us on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on X. And we're soon working on our website where you can join a community. We have meetups. You can learn how to gather and collect the skills, the tools, the talent, the resources that it takes to be successful in real estate. All right? I'm Milton Ali.
And I'm Hampton Skurlock.
And we'll catch you on the flip side of the Investor Tribe.
The Investor Tribe podcast is a production of the Investor Tribe. To learn more, visit invtribe.com.